What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Got a great guest on today. She's an advocate. She's been locked up before in her life. She's had a few things happen. But Shanoa, you can tell them your story better than I can. Tell the people who you are, where you're from, and let's talk about you and what you're doing.
Thank you, love. My name's Shanoa Mitchell. I'm from Northern California, and I am a freedom fighter. I fight for wrongful convictions, the mass incarceration rate, MMIWs. I'm just trying to be the voice for the voiceless, and I use social media platforms to do so. But I am a product of the broken system. I've been in and out of juvie as a child, in and out of jail as an adult, rehab, all different kinds of things, falsely accused, falsely arrested, and falsely convicted. I've taken plea bargains for things I did not do because the DA wanted to bully me into doing a lot of time. I was attempted essayed by my public defender.
Essay is best. Essay is best.
Yeah. So he attempted essay on me. He refused to lock the door on me and refused to let me out. And I couldn't do anything. I felt helpless because I'm Native American. I have tattoos, and I knew if I touched this man, he had power that I didn't have. Eventually, I got him to open the door. There was an investigation. They caught him admitting to it. And I go back to the courthouse 2 years later, and he's still working because who cares, right? It's just me. But that's why I try to stand up for people. The last time I was wrongfully arrested, I got paralyzed. I got Guillain-Barré from the flu shot, and they arrested me for public intoxication. They booked me, released me, threw me on the ground, left me there for a few hours, rearrested me. And I stayed in jail for about 3 days. They refused me medical service. They taunted me, mocked me. When I needed a wheelchair to go to court, they then taunted me some more, saying I was trying to get sympathy to be able to get released. The judge OR'd me, and I fell apart that night. It took me a year to learn how to move and walk and do everything again, based off of literally being wrongfully accused and wrongfully arrested.
Let's talk about your life a little bit, right? You grew up on the reservation for a while. What was that like growing up on the reservation?
A reservation lifestyle is one that most people can't comprehend. There is a lot of abuse, physical, mental, emotional. There's a lot of neglect. There's a lot of substance abuse from the elders. And as children, we started using and doing things a lot younger than normal people would, because our parents were, doing the best they could with what they had, but it wasn't enough. I would say that a reservation lifestyle is kind of like a third world country.
Some people see certain things. I mean, there's some movies out there about the reservation. I think you see a little bit in that Yellowstone. And I've been in prison with some cats. I've been in prison with some Native Americans. A lot of them were Crips from the reservation. Did you see kind of like that gang thing on the reservation with the dudes?
No, not from my reservation. I am from Northern California, so off the reservation, there was a lot of gang stuff, but mostly we are guilty by association because we wear red for our people. You know what I mean? Red is a Native American color. And so we very stereotyped. But I mean, a lot of violence definitely took place, a lot of violence. And growing up around that kind of atmosphere, you're just a product of your environment.
Was your father in the house?
No, I never had my biological father, and my dad, who was there, who raised me or had my brothers and sisters. He was an alcoholic when I was younger. I watched him literally stab himself with a butcher knife because my mom wouldn't, and pull it out, throw it on the ground, and said, "Look what you made me do," and walked off. And that was normal. I was like 7 years old, and it was like that. I thought, that's love. You know what I mean? Look how much he loves her. But it's just, things happen.
Yeah. Okay. And your mom, what was your mom like? Was she drug addicted? Anything like that?
As far as I know from my memories, again, I lost a lot of my memories when I got paralyzed. My mom did a lot, but it made her the opposite of, she wasn't a bad mom per se, but she worked so hard. She birthed 6 kids, and there's 11 of us, brothers and sisters, but she worked so hard. She was always working. And when she wasn't working, when she came home, work came with her. She was, you know what I mean? Like just worked so much.
Not easy with that many kids, right?
Yeah. So we pretty much raised ourselves, like in the aspect that, you know, you had a hardworking mom who could never be there.
How old are you when you leave the reservation? You finally decide, you know what, I'm out of here.
I was about 12 when I moved in with my boyfriend, but he didn't live too far off the reservation.
12 years old. Is he native? Is this dude a native too, or?
No, he was Hispanic, and he was a gang member.
What gang, if you don't mind me asking?
He was a Norteno.
So he's a Norteno. You leave the reservation. How long are you with this cat?
7 years.
And how old is he? I mean, you're 12 years old. He's a Norteno. How old is he?
He's about 4 years older than me.
So a 16-year-old's kicking it with a 12-year-old, and he's a gang member.
Yeah, I developed early, as they say. I looked older. That old saying.
Well, I'm sure the people watching can't tell, but anyway, I probably shouldn't joke around with you like that. But anyway, so you're out there. What happens with that relationship? Do you guys?
Well, I fell into it. I mean, I was arrested a lot as a juvenile, but not for things I did, but because I was that ride or die. I took the case, I took the charge, you know, I was willing to do that. And we messed around with different forms of drugs and, you know, living that lifestyle. We did that. I had my first tattoos when I was like 12 or 13 and they were gang related. And then I got pregnant with my daughter. And she changed my whole life. When I got pregnant with her, I left him because he still wanted to be in that life. And I wanted the best for her. And I got my tattoos covered up and I realized that's not even my war. That's, you know, that's a different, I'm Native. Okay. I'm a warrior. I'm not a gangbanger. And yeah, she saved me.
Where do you go at 16 after you have the baby? Do you go back to the res or are you just out on your own?
I was out on my own. I went to the res for like 3 months, got an apartment, started college. I graduated when I was 15 from high school. So I started college right after I had her. And then I got an apartment with my sister and then I started working.
How old are you when you first go to jail? What's your first jail experience like?
My first adult jail experience was a domestic violence from my ex-husband. He called the cops on me. And he tried to say that I did stuff that I didn't do, but he called the cops on me because we were in a fight because he had an affair with my cousin and that got brought up.
So you weren't really putting the beats on him?
No, but I really, really wanted to.
You're crazy. All right. So what was the longest amount of time that you actually spent in jail, Shanoa?
Not that long. In juvie, I've spent a lot of time, but in jail, I think the longest was the 3 days when I got paralyzed.
Well, let me reverse a little bit then. The juvie thing, right? How old are you when you go to juvie and how long are you there for and what for?
I went to juvie when I was like 13 for a big gang fight. It made the paper, but I kind of like, you know, took one to the chin. Like, that was like 3, 4, maybe 5 months. I don't remember. And then I went to juvie again for assaulting a principal and a teacher in 7th grade. So I don't know how old you are in 7th grade. But I did a few months for that. Mostly.
Juvie, what is it like in there? I mean, are the chicks fighting each other? I mean, all young girls, are they playing gang sets and all of that type of stuff?
Juvenile hall was cool. Actually, I'm still friends with every single person who worked in the juvenile hall on Facebook and everything. Like when I see them, I hug them. I love them. They were like mothers to me. Again, my mom she was never really around. She worked really hard. So they were like mothers to me. I loved going to juvie. I got fed good. They would let me out. They knew all my uncles and my auntie because they all got locked up when they were younger. And they knew my grandpa who had worked there for years. So they were like my family. They would give me special treatment, let me out of my cell to watch the news in the morning, give me coffee, let me mow the lawn so I could get some outside time, let me pick roses, all different kinds of stuff.
So now I know you got this big TikTok presence, right? I mean, some of your videos got millions and millions of views on there. But you kind of got into this advocacy thing, right?
Right.
Tell the people a little bit about that and the person that you're trying to help.
Well, I got into this advocacy thing after I was paralyzed. So when I had to take that plea bargain from the DA after I was paralyzed, I still had to go to court for it when I got out of my hospice. And the DA threatened to take me away for 20 years if I was found guilty. And I wasn't willing to take that chance because I already almost died and I wasn't going to leave my kids. I was like, 5 years probation, walk out of the courtroom, or up to 20 years. So I took a plea bargain for something I didn't do. And then a few years later, I was going to sue them, but I was scared of repercussions. And a few years later, somebody did pass away in the same jail as me because they denied her medical service. And that lit a fire under my ass. And so I started helping people using my social media platform to spread awareness of different cases. And then right now I'm working on the Winston Walters case. And this one is, I started this fight about a year and a half ago because he has been railroaded by the system, abused in every form possible. And it's like one of those things that you can't just sit back and watch, you can't just sit back and do nothing because then you're part of the problem. So Winston was 19 years old when he was wrongfully convicted of a home invasion style robbery. During this robbery, nobody was unalive, no women were harmed, no children were involved. And both victims identified their own nephew. Their nephew had motive, their nephew had evidence at the crime scene, and their nephew was identified based off of his height, weight, mannerism. He knew his way around the house. He knew about their cell phones, their safe, their money, a hidden key the only family knew about. And then Winston was brought in a year later and used as a scapegoat by coerced statements from career criminals who all saved their asses.
Let me ask you this, right? Because people are going to want to know. The charge that you end up taking the probation for, which eventually starts this advocacy work, what kind of charge was that? Obviously, it was felony probation. What were you charged with?
I was charged with public intoxication and child endangerment.
So really, it's not like this big felony and all of that. The dude's threatening you with 20 years. He's probably full of shit, right?
Probably, but the fear that the DA tries to pump into people, same with, trying to get the coerced statements and stuff, the fear that they try to put into you to take plea bargains or to like roll over and stuff is atrocious. It's disgusting, but I could not, I fought for my life. I was on my deathbed. The doctor said for everybody to say goodbye to me, and I laughed at him. I could not risk the fact that maybe they would find me guilty because I'm Native. I had a violent background when I was younger. And even though I was a different person now, that they would not see me for that.
Sometimes innocent people do plead guilty, and sometimes innocent people end up in prison with life sentences, just like Winston, right?
Yeah.
You said that there were other people, career criminals or whatever, that, implicate him. What do they say? They say, yeah, we were there with him?
Well, they tried to, in order for Winston to be involved in this case, he was brought in a year later. And in order for him to even be involved, they had to come up with all of these lies and keep fabricating them. There was one guy who said that, he maintained Winston's innocence the entire time. Mind you, the lead investigator, Chad Powell, was fired from the county over, rehired and able to work this case. So he drives to Colorado to pick up this kid, this guy, and then to interview him. And he interviews him, and they're in on him. They take him to court. They threaten him with 100 years. He was on suicide watch. This is all documented. The crazy thing, we could prove all this. So he was on suicide watch. He maintained Winston's innocence. Then the camera shuts off and they turn it back on, and he's fist pumping the lead investigator and fist pumping the DA, calling his mom saying they're going to take care of it because he was already had, he was from Colorado. He got picked up from Colorado jail. So he already had stuff going on. And then he came up with this crazy story that doesn't even make any sense, where he's the driver. And he says that Winston, him, and this other guy drove over there to steal an industrial-sized welder in this tiny car which that wouldn't fit. And then he says that Winston made 2 phone calls. Well, the forensic people went and they did the cell phone tower analysis, and Winston never had any phone calls around the time that took place. His last phone call was about midnight and it didn't go through. So either his phone was off or he didn't have service. And so how are you going to make phone calls to 2 phone calls? He said that Winston called him after he dropped them off. And then he said Winston called him to pick them up after the robbery. There's no phone calls. So how's that happen?
And so people know you're talking, this is in the state of Oklahoma, correct?
This is in the state of Oklahoma. And it is really bad over there. But to see this guy, he had his whole life, they gave him a deal and he basically did no time. He was walking around the jail saying that he was going to do no time for saying this about Winston. And people from the jail went to the trial, and even though they were still incarcerated, and actually they took the stand on Winston's behalf, telling them like, hey, dude, this guy was over here bragging about it.
Let me say this, right? Because I seen a video. I did a little research. I seen a little video that you had put up on your TikTok, which we'll put your links. I want people to go support you over there. Where you put on how many actual innocent people are in the country, right? Do you remember what that number was?
There's over 45,000 innocent people incarcerated right now in the United States, and it happens every single day. A minimum of 2 innocent people are wrongfully incarcerated every single day. And it's crazy because the United States holds less than 5% of the world's population, and we're leading the world in incarceration.
Absolutely ridiculous. Let me say this, right? Because I was also in Oklahoma, and they send us to a county jail down there in Chickasha, Oklahoma, the worst county jail I've ever been in my life. Food is absolutely horrible. But I meet this old man there that's got like 30-something years in. They're bringing him back from prison to court. DNA evidence proves that he didn't do what he's accused of. He was actually accused of R-ing his stepdaughter and taking her life, right? It was a death penalty case, and eventually he doesn't get death, but he's sitting in prison for 33 years. He's now 80-something years old and spent, 30-something years of his life in prison. They bring him back to say, oh, you know what? We're sorry. We're going to let you out. That dude was innocent. The DNA proved that he was innocent. So this shit does happen in Oklahoma, right?
That shit makes me want to cry. But no, yeah, it absolutely happens in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma right now, this is bigger than just the wrongful convictions that they're doing. Oklahoma is at war with the land. So the Apache Nation, the Kiowa Nation, and the Comanche Nation, they're sovereign nations. They're federally recognized, and they're trying to say that they were disestablished. But really, they have the largest post-reservation land theft in U.S. history. But it was never disestablished by Congress. But the state will try to tell you that it was. It was never. But that's because they want to keep the taxes to go to the state and not federal taxes. They want to keep the people and the rights to the people when they can't. In Winston's case, there is nothing but circumstantial evidence and coercion. Literally, there is nothing in the case putting him at the crime scene at all. Not even the victims. The victims, after being fed this story from, the investigators time and time again for quite some time, then they started to be like, oh, okay, maybe it wasn't our nephew, maybe it's him. Nobody took the time to bring Winston's alibi, up and let him speak at his trial. He had a bunch of different things that weren't brought up during his trial. But one of the things is there's this mysterious water bottle. It wasn't documented. There's no pictures of it. There's nothing in regards to this mysterious water bottle that they said that they found somewhere over there, where Winston's DNA was a 1 in 236 match, or possibility. I'm sorry. If anybody knows DNA analysis, that is not a DNA hit. Okay. First off, if 50,000 people watch this, 5,000 of you would have been a possibility, which is what Winston was. It was a mixture DNA profile of a minimum of 4 people. That's it. That's the smoking gun. It's not documented. Nobody knows where it came from. And there's this mysterious water bottle. Now, Mrs. Roebuck was duct taped by the tall perp, and the state wants you to believe that that's Winston. Well, on that duct tape, her DNA and somebody else's DNA was found. Her DNA match was 1 in like 463 quadrillion. I forget that word.
It sounds good. Whatever you said sounds good.
Quintillion. It's quintillion. That's a DNA match. That is exactly her DNA. The other DNA is magical. Nobody knows whose it is. It's not Winston's. It's a mysterious DNA. But the tall perp was supposedly Winston. The state wants you to believe that. Yet no DNA evidence.
How old was Winston when he was arrested?
19.
19 years old. Sentenced to how much time? Tell the people.
92 years, no chance of parole for a case where nobody was unalived, no women were harmed, and no children were involved. And Casey Anthony's out here running free.
Oh, boy. Don't throw Casey Anthony in there, all right?
I'm telling you, you can see the bias and the racism in his sentencing alone, because so many people will unalive other people and do 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, they're looking at. And then you take, natives from the reservation, African Americans from poor, people who don't have any money and look different, and they're doing life for shit that they didn't even do. Some people are being executed and found innocent after execution. It's a huge problem.
Let me ask you this. I mean, I know we talked about the minorities. Do you think it happens to some white people there too?
Absolutely. Anybody can be a product of this broken system. If you don't have the money and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, or you're hanging out with the wrong people, even that, it can happen to anybody. It's just unfortunate that we see that the highest, missing, unalived, incarcerated seems to be, Native Americans, African American, they are the highest.
So Winston's been in prison how long now?
11 years.
And, you took over this advocacy thing for him and everything. I think his mother had passed away when he was young, right? Struggle for him in there, right? Do people look out for him, send him commissary money? Does anyone take care of him?
He has his grandma. She adopted him after his mom passed. But she's getting old. And, Winston has sat in prison with no chance of getting out and taken every single cognitive behavioral class. He made the president's honor roll. He's done all this stuff just to be a better person and be the best version of himself. And they continuously mess with him. I'm talking about I've never met anybody who's been to so many prisons. Every time he gets comfortable and he's in school, they move him to another prison. He just got out of a maximum security again, because they said that they found a picture of him on a cell phone. If that was true, you'd have nobody in prison, everybody in the maximum security prisons.
It's got to be a rough go at 19 years old to get a life sentence. I've helped people get out on compassionate release on the federal level that have killed people. One guy had two bodies in his case. Another guy I've probably got 8 or 9 people out that have killed people. And Winston hasn't killed anybody, and he's got a 90-something year sentence going in at 19. The kid definitely deserves a second chance. And I'm going to put up his links and tell people today that if you're going to donate to this show today, I'm going to put your Cashapp up or whatever and donate to.
Not my Cashapp. Please don't send any money to me. Send it to the fundraiser. It's ran by Miss Rainey Robinson from Dogs Most Wanted. If you go to freewinstonwalters.com, you can find it. She created a webpage and everything. I don't want anything to do with any money. I just want to help, and I don't need anything sent my way.
That's fine. So whatever the links are that you guys are doing, they'll be in the description. What does Winston tell you? What does he talk about? With a 90, maybe we're going to interview him too, possibly, if we're allowed to. What does he tell you? Is he still going hard, or is he just like, man, is he giving up? What's it like for a 19-year-old with 92 years?
There was a time in the beginning of his incarceration that he did give up, and he was kind of like, fuck it. This is good the rest of my life, and he was in survival mode. And then the McGirt ruling happened in Oklahoma, and he realized that he had a chance to possibly be freed and have his case be heard. Now, he's had every single appeal denied by the state of Oklahoma, even though there's proof that the judge was in violation of due process, even though there's proof that they lack jurisdiction, even though there's proof that there's no evidence, it's all circumstantial, even though there's proof that the lead investigator, Chad Powell, was fired and then rehired. There's so much stuff in regards to his case. All his appeals still continuously get denied because it's Oklahoma. Their appeal rate, they deny about 99% of appeals. And then like you said, let people out 30, 40 years later. And they're like, oh, my bad, good luck. But Winston has never had as much hope as he has now. As I've been fighting for him, I've met, people like yourself and some other podcasters, some nonprofit organizations. I found Rainey Robinson, or she found me, together, and she's been helping. And this is the most just getting his story out there that he's ever had. And right now he's so hopeful. I mean, he's hoping that he'll be able to go home to his grandma before the year's end.
Tell the people who Rainey is.
Rainey Robinson is a private investigator and a reality TV star from Dogs Most Wanted. And I think she did a few other series, but Dog the Bounty Hunter. She's an amazing woman. And she actually has opened up some cold cases out of Oklahoma for 2 girls who were unalived at the fair. She works on different things. And I mean, she's just been a big part of this, just helping. But even her appeal that she just did was denied by the state of Oklahoma. And she was like, I kind of expected that, they're going to we got to, keep applying pressure, but she can only do so much. And people need to know Winston and Winston's story, because you have an amazing kid who'd never been in trouble before, his whole life taken away, and he's still doing, his best. Right now he's in culinary arts. Like, no matter what, he takes every opportunity to be the best version of himself. With a 92-year, his release date is 2107, and he's still doing it. Like, this is not a hardened criminal. This is not somebody who, put your lives in danger or your children's lives in danger. This is a boy who is a product of a broken system.
I mean, hey, you're fighting for him. And I told you before, you're going to send me some stuff. I'm going to look at it and get my buddy Dale on it too. We're going to take a look at the case and see if there's something that we can do to try to help you. Also, if there's some lawyers out there watching, you might, this might be something you're interested in.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of lawyers out there that care about nothing but the money. And they're like, I'm not helping these people for free. I need a $2 million house. You know what I mean? But maybe someone will hear this story. Maybe someone will be interested. And like I said, Oklahoma's they got that good old boy system down there. I was down there in that county jail and see the way that they operated. Dude came in there. He said, if y'all move, I'm going to shoot you, right? Shoot your ass up. And I'm like, what the? And I'm from New York, like listening to this old cowboy dude with the dude had a cowboy hat on and all kinds of shit. And I'm thinking I'm in the middle of Gunsmoke or some shit.
Right.
But hopefully, maybe we can do something to try to help out.
Yeah, people need to practice what they preach. And people are always telling me, prayers. And it's like, do you not understand that you are the answered prayers? Whatever you pray for will come in your direction. And it's up to you to take that step to make the change. That is your answered prayer. If you refuse that, then your prayer is gone. Like, God ain't just going to create it and just going to come down and do everything for us. We have to put in the footwork. And many hands make for light work. So the more of us that are on board that, are going to stop this, because this is bigger than just Winston. Telling Oklahoma, demanding his freedom because, he's wrongfully incarcerated and all the other BS, that's the step in the direction to help free the people of Oklahoma who literally, you've been to Oklahoma, are treated like dogs, worse than dogs. They literally are just thrown away to the system, even with no evidence.
Well, I'll put up the links and I'm going to take a look at your case. Is there anything you want to say before we get ready to go? Tell people where to find your TikTok, find his TikTok, support what you're doing.
Well, I'll just send them to you in the links. But yeah, my name is native_strong123 on TikTok. I am on my 6th TikTok. I've had to keep recreating them because I stand for something. So they always want to shut me up. And you'll find the Winston Walters one there as well. Every single day I talk about it. Lately, I've been talking about Cole Brings Plenty's case as well, trying to get more signatures to help get the family answers for him. I try to help because that's the point of life. Everything that you buy is trivial. Everything that you have purchased with your money that's going to belong to somebody else, go in the garbage or rot when you perish. But the things that we do to help each other and to correct, to right the wrongs of this broken world, that's forever. That's where your immortality lies. It lies with the things that you do to help those that need help.
Well, listen, Shanoa, I appreciate you coming on, sharing the story, sharing your experiences, the reservation and how you got into the advocacy work. And I'm going to tell people to go check out your links. If you felt like donating to our show today, please don't do that. Check out the links and do it today for these people that need help. Okay.
Thank you, love.
Thank you.